Hello and welcome back. This video is going to be another segmented project using the leftover material that I milled up for my segmented vase. I was really happy with how the species of wood that I selected seemed to really complement each other, and so for this project I'd like to use the same wood and make a Christmas tree ornament, just a little bauble. So I've already milled up the walnut to the sizes that I need for this, and I've also made a feature band laminate that will be the feature for the bauble, and it is cherry in the centre with sapelli either side, and the main bulk of the bauble will be walnut. So we'll go to the bandsaw. I'll show you the plans that I made for the bauble, for the dimensions, and I'll also speak a little bit about the sled that I have for cutting the segments, as I had a question about it from the video of my segmented vase. The first thing I did was use a compass to draw a circle, the diameter that I want the finished bauble to be. In this case it's 70mm or 2 3/4 inches, which will be slightly bigger than what a standard Christmas decoration is. Once I had that circle, I then divided it up into the sections that will be the layers of wood. So I found the centre of the circle, and I've made the feature band 20mm, and then the size of the walnut either side, 2 layers of walnut, top and bottom, and each layer is 15mm to give me the 70mm all around. So I'll have 10mm of cherry in the centre, with 5mm of sapelli either side, and then 30mm and 30mm of walnut. And then I marked a little bit extra for the wall thickness, and that has given me the width of the segment that I need. I've given myself just a little bit more either side so that I have plenty to glue and to turn down to the finished dimension. And then I found the segment length, which is a case of taking the total diameter that you want for that ring, multiplying it by 3.14 or pi, and then dividing it by the number of segments. In this case I'm going to have 6 segments per ring. So using that calculation, it gives me the segment length. So for the centre band, the segment length will be 41mm. For the second layer of walnut it will be 39mm for both, and then for the first layers of walnut it will be 31mm. And as there are 6 segments in the ring, the angle that I'll cut the segments at is 30. And here we have my segment cutting sled for my bandsaw. I've been playing around for the last little while to set the angle for the 30 degrees required for a 6 segment ring, and I have it honed in now to give me the perfect angle. This was my test cuts here, and you can see that the 2 halves both end up with a perfect joints between the 3 segments, and then they would go together to make the perfect ring. So someone asked really how I made the sled. It's quite a simple design. Yeah, I have my bandsaw table, and underneath I got just a scrap bit of chipboard. I squared it off and I sat it on my table, and then I got just scrap bits of pine here that I held against the underside once it was all square, and I screwed that up onto there. The same on the other side as well. So this bit of chipboard sits on the bandsaw table, and it's able to slide freely, but the pine runners here keep it straight. It stops it from moving out of line. I didn't want it to be too tight, otherwise it would be difficult to move the sled back and forward, but it's just tight enough to allow me to do that and keep it straight as well. For the fence, I don't know if I put it out here, I bored a flat hole big enough to accept the head of a carriage bolt, so that it would be countersunk on the bottom side of the board here. And then that bolt is bored through a scrap bit of pine again, with a wing nut there. So I have the adjustment there. You have your pivot point just to the side of where you are going to have your bandsaw blade cutting. You can loosen this wing nut and you can adjust the fence to whatever angle you need, and you can tighten that down and it holds it quite firmly in place. I've not had any trouble with it moving out of place after I've set it. And I just use a scrap block of wood that I clamp on, and that's my stop block, so that I can make repeat cuts. It's very simple, but it's effective and it does what I need it to. Right, so I already have the strips of wood that I need to laminate together for the feature ring. 10mm of cherry and 5mm of sapelli either side. This isn't glued yet. I'll glue this together when I'm gluing the rings together as well. So I'll cut the walnut now, and then we can get to gluing up some rings. I have all the segments cut now for the 4 walnut rings, and I've tested this ring in a band clamp to see how the fit is, and it's looking pretty perfect. I took a bit of time to sand off the fuzzy edges that are left from the bandsaw blade. So let's get these glued up. First glue up is now dried, so I have my 2 middle discs of walnut and my 2 top and bottom discs of walnut, and I've tidied them up on the sander as well for a nice smooth finish. My laminate for the feature ring is also done as well. So I'm going to cut this to the 6 segments and get that ring glued up before going on to gluing these together. While the feature ring dries, I'm going to work on the walnut discs. And what I'm going to do is bore a 3/4 hole through the centre of each disc and glue a dowel down the centre of them. And that's for 2 reasons. The first of which is so that I can ensure that these 2 walnut discs will go together perfectly centred, and also I can have excess coming out of the end to go into the pen jaws of my chuck, so that I can hold it, and it will allow me to hollow out the centre, as I don't want this to be too heavy as it's going to be a tree ornament. So I'll be able to hollow out both halves first, glue the feature ring onto one half and carve out the inside of it before finally gluing the entire thing together and turning the sphere on the outside. Okay, so I have my 2 halves with the dowels. So I'll put a bit of glue in the holes and on the opposing faces here and glue it together like that. And then once it's glued, I'll leave it overnight, and tomorrow I should be able to start turning. But I quite like this method with the dowel, as I don't need to worry about this sliding about and being out of line. Then it's going to keep it locked in the centre, and I can clamp all the way around to get a really good close joint for turning this. at this stage I have both the top and the bottom halves glued up and the dowel glue through the centre, and the feature ring is also glued up and ready. And I have one of the walnut halves mounted in the chuck. I'm going to do just a little hollowing to reduce the overall weight of the finished decoration. I'll do that on both sides, and then I'll glue the feature ring onto one half and turn away a bit of the excess on the feature ring as well before gluing it completely together and then turning the sphere shape. Right, everything is now fully glued up. I even left it an extra day as it's been very cold out here in the garage, and so I took it inside just to be sure that the glue has fully cured throughout the piece. So the purpose of this project really is, I've seen a lot of videos on YouTube recently of turning a perfect sphere, and I wanted to have a try at doing that myself. And I thought that this Christmas decoration might be a good way to try that. So while the glue was drying, I took the time to make these, which will be the way of holding the bauble once I've turned the initial roundness of it. I've hollowed out these two bits of scrap wood so that I'll be able to pinch it together like that, and it should turn pretty centred and allow me to turn a perfect sphere. So the first thing I need to do is round off these corners, and that will give me the overall diameter of the sphere. Once I have that, I can measure out to each side, and that will give me the diameter that way. I can part it down and turn a rough shape around, and then rotate the axis and just remove the high spots. And in theory, if I do it right, then I should be left with a perfect sphere. It'll just be a case of turning the piece of wood on a new axis each time until there are no more high spots. So let's get going and give it a try. Right, I have it rounded off here now to the finished diameter, and using the calipers I've managed to make the distance from the side to side equal to the diameter around there. I've just taken a bit of time to make this little template that sits nicely over the top there like that, so I can use this as I'm turning away these corners just to see that I'm coming to a nice round shape ready to spin it around. With the ball mounted like this on the opposite axis, as it spins I can see a ghosting effect around the form of the ball, and it's those high spots that I want to remove, and I need to be careful not to cut any deeper than that, as I'll lose the form of the sphere, and as I rotate it again it'll just be a case of the ball getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So it will be very light cuts now just to remove that ghosting effect. Once I have it running perfectly true, I'll just keep marking a centre line here again and rotating until I'm happy with the final shape, and then I can sand it. I have it sanded now as far as I'm going to sand it, up to 320. I don't think I need to go any further than that, as it's already really smooth, and sanding is just making it smaller and smaller and smaller. I'm really happy with how it's turned out. My jig worked a treat as well to help me really check and see that it was going to be perfect all the way around, and it is. It runs really smooth through there without any trouble. So I'm going to put some Yorkshire grit around here, and I'll see how that works, and I'll maybe put some Hampshire sheen high gloss on it as well. I'm just worried that the pressure that I have to put on the ball with this, it tends to dig in a bit too much, and I don't want it to leave any dimples or bruising on it. but I'll put some oil and some some Yorkshire grit on it, and then maybe some Hampshire sheen, as long as it's not going to be distorted by the jigs that I have here. What I feared might happen turned out to be true, and that is that with the addition of oil or the Yorkshire grit on the ball, it made it slippery on these bits of wood here, which was causing it to burn and bruise the wood. So rather than trying time and time again to use Yorkshire grit and Hampshire sheen, I'm just adding oil and then polishing it in with a paper towel, and it's coming out with quite a nice shine on it anyway. I did burnish it with the shavings for a little bit as well, just to help close down the fibres of the wood and give it a shine naturally. What I can do in the future, I don't have a polishing wheel currently, but when I get one, then I can just put on some paste wax and I can polish it up around like that. So the oil just now though is doing well for it. I'm really happy with how it's turned out. The last thing I need to do is fit a hook eye on the top of the bauble so that I can put a bit of string on it for hanging it on the tree, and then this one is finished. And here's the finished bauble. I put a copper hook eye in the top there and just some gold string around there for putting on the tree. I'm very happy with how this has turned out. It's a very simple design, just using the scrap that I had left over from my vase. The real purpose of this project was to have a go at turning a sphere, and I'm pretty happy with how this has turned out. I'd say it's pretty much a perfect sphere. I don't know if you can really turn a perfect sphere without a jig, but I think going by my eye, this is pretty much near perfect, so I'm really happy with it. And I hope you've enjoyed watching the video and seeing this be made. Thank you to my subscribers for your support and watching my videos. And if you haven't subscribed and you like this video, please take the time to visit my channel and have a look at my other videos and subscribe before you leave as well. This will be my last video before Christmas. The other videos that I'll be doing are for presents that will be for Christmas, so I'm not going to post them until after the Christmas period. But I have some fun projects for that as well, so stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching.